Hello and welcome to the Global Poker League and our new strategy segment where we ask our guest pro to take us through a hand in detail from the GPL. This time we are joined by Jonathan Little for the Las Vegas Moneymakers. He's going to take us through a hand from the Eurasian Six Max involving Dominik Nitsche and Liv Boeree. Jonathan, thanks for being with us once again.
Thanks for having me.
What happened in this hand that particularly fascinated you?
All right, so we are four-handed, and whenever we were reviewing this hand, or watching this hand live on the stream, I actually got it wrong, because take a look at what happens here. There's no small blind. And I was busy interacting with the Twitch chat. Sorry for ignoring the game and talking to the Twitch chat.
Outrageous, Jonathan. I don't know what you were thinking.
Yeah, and so in this hand, I actually thought the Liv Boeree raised, or limped, one of the two, but she didn't. Notice here, Dominik raises under the gun. There is no small blind. So kind of a bizarre scenario. And notice the stack sizes are such that Dominik has a lot of chips. He has 64,000. The other three players all have 25,000. So they have a really big incentive not to go broke here. So we'll keep that in mind as we move forward. So Dominik raises to 2,400 with King Queen, which is perfectly fine. And Liv Boeree has 29,000 chips and decides to just call in the spot. In a scenario where, you know, her hand's pretty good. She certainly doesn't mind splashing around a bit with a hand like this and just trying to flop well. I think she could also have considered going all in. That'd be kind of risky, but maybe that's just the right play.
Jack 10 suit is a nice hand to peel with.
Yeah, the one problem with calling is that maybe one of the players you get to act shoves and then you have to fold. Whereas if you shove yourself, she would have gotten called by Dominik here. But at least then you realize your equity, you don't get bluffed out by an aggressive player like Dom. So flop comes 10-7-3, three spades.
Top pair for Liv.
Top pair for Liv, but a draw for Dominik. So in this spot, Dominik should almost certainly bet. If Liv has nothing, she's going to fold. She's going to fold out a lot of hands like ace-jack with no spade. So there are a lot of hands that she very easily could fold with in this scenario. So Dominik will almost certainly throw out a bet. And he does bet very small. I'm a little bit surprised at this tiny bet. I would think that he should bet.
Dominik.
Yeah, I would think he would bet a touch larger to try to price out some of the marginal hands from Liv, but you know, whatever, 2,000 is fine. Maybe he planned on betting the turn in the river very often anyway. And if that's the case, you don't really care if you keep Liv in the pot, because by the river you expect to make her fold out a huge range of hands. So that's something you'll see a lot of the best players do. They bet small on the flop, then they bet large on the turn, and then large on the river.
You see a 9 of hearts on the turn.
It's a reasonably good card for Liv. She is a draw now, in addition to her top pair. But Dom's going to throw out another bet because
he's Dominik Nitsche.
He's Dominik, exactly. He's not afraid. He played a heads-up match with Justin Boeree, and Justin Boeree mentioned how he thinks that Dominik bluffs perhaps a little bit too much, and you know, maybe this is an example of this, but I think this is just a very good...
I only took him to hand 4 to bluff in this game against Justin Boeree.
That is true. I mean, this is just a very good spot to throw out a bluff, though. I think it's somewhat mandatory. Notice now Dominik also has a gut shot straight draw. He should do his overcards, his flush draw. He has it all. When you have it all, there's nothing wrong with betting. So we bet 7,000, and again, Liv decides to just call. Notice she has 24,000 chips. Some people shove in this spot, but I think it's okay to just call and see what happens. If the river's a spade, you have a very clear fold, I think. If the river's, well, an ace or a king or a queen, you're not really loving it.
As we see, it comes the ace of diamonds, talk of the devil.
Right, so this is one of the few cards Liv did not want to see. But notice here, Liv actually has a problem. She only has 17,000 chips remaining in her stack. And it's a tough spot if Dominik bets. And I would not be shocked if Dominik bets this. He could very easily have a hand like ace-king or ace-queen or ace-jack or ace-9 with the ace of spades. And he now should, for sure, go for value because Liv's hand is almost certainly a 10 or a 7 or maybe a hand like jack-9 or 9-8 that has some marginal pair. And this is just a good spot to leverage Dominik's big stack and really push around whoever just happened to be in the spot. It was Liv, but he would be making this play versus any of the short stacks because none of the short stacks want to go broke. They want to get points for their team. So Dominik does go all in, applies maximum pressure, and Liv is sick, as you can see.
We'd already seen Dario Sammartino put Liv in a similar spot earlier. I think it was in the same match or possibly the match before. So I think that was the second time Liv was faced with a really kind of awkward river decision in the Six Max. You know, no respite for these players in the GPL.
I mean, Liv found herself in a lot of spots where she just happened to have good-ish hands, and those are not what you want against good aggressive players because they're going to put you and they're just going to put you to the worst decisions possible. And right here, Liv was trying to figure out the number of combinations of hands that she conceivably beats here. And really, it's only king, queen, king, jack. What else? I mean, that's about it. He's not going to play a hand like jack 9 this way as a bluff, I don't think. I mean, maybe Dominik just has a bunch of bluffs with hands like 5-4 offsuit, for all I know. Maybe he's opening incredibly wide because he is the chip leader. It's very tough to know, but I would expect Dominik to be opening a lot of hands. And if he's opening a lot of hands, I would not fault Liv for calling. I mean, I'm a pretty big fan of making big calls. I don't really make big folds. I don't know how to do that. If I have a leak, it is calling too much. And for that reason, I maybe would have called Dom, but Liv does make the fold.
Let's go.
And she survives to fight another day, but at the same time, it allows Dom to chip up, and he ended up using this fantastic chip lead to win the game with what seemed like relative ease. So that's it for this hand.
Thank you, Jonathan Little. Join us next time on our Pro segment, where we go deep into a GPL hand. For now, adios.
Connect with us on social media for league updates and download our app, GPL TV, to stay on top of everything GPL.